Hey guys, and welcome to another tutorial. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make this apple slicing animation in Blender. We're going to be using some physics and stuff. Now this isn't the most realistic looking animation. Obviously if you spend a lot more time on this, I just did a quick kind of dirty job to get this, and I'm going to be taking you through the process. Now this would be a little bit more of an advanced tutorial, so if you're still really new to Blender and still figuring out the very basics, you'll probably struggle following along with this. But other than that, it's going to be a fun little tutorial, and as always the blend files are going to be on my Patreon, which you can check in the description below, and I put a lot of cool stuff on there. So yeah, let's get into making this. Enjoy. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go into the description below, and I'm going to leave a link to this image here, which is free to download and free to use. It's on Pixabay. Just come here to free download, click on that and download it. Now I've put my downloaded texture or image, I should say, here on my desktop. And once you've done that, open up a fresh scene in Blender. I'm using Blender 2.92. And you can see down here that I have my screen recording. On my screen recording, I have my key presses here. So you can see if I hit the space bar, it shows down here, or if I do any mouse clicks. So with that done, I'm going to go ahead and select all of the default objects. And I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to delete those default objects. And what we're going to be adding in here is a UV sphere to get started with. So I'm going to go Shift A. I'm going to go to the mesh options here. I'm going to add in a UV sphere, and I'm going to hit 1 to go into my front orthographic view. And with this UV sphere selected, we're going to tab into edit mode, and we're going to select the top vertex, so the very top vertex here. And we're going to go over here to our proportional editing. We're going to click on that, and with that top vertex selected, we're going to hit G, and we're going to bring it down. Now you can roll your middle mouse button to decrease or increase the fall off amount, but we're going to bring that vertex down like this to create kind of like the top of the apple. Okay, and then we're going to go G again, and we're going to shrink it by rolling it down smaller, and we're just going to bring that little guy down like that. So it's just in deeper like that. And then we can go Shift Alt click on an edge here to loop select these verts, and we can kind of go into your front view again, and you can hit R just to kind of rotate them a little bit. So just kind of create a little bit of an offset, and then select the vert here at the front and go G, and just kind of bring it down a bit. So we're just trying to create a bit of an organic looking shape here. You can also just come in here, hovering over one of these edges, hit Control R. You're going to see a yellow line appear, double click. And now you can go Alt S and shrink the fall off. So Alt S and just scale that out along the normal. So just adding in a little bit of extra geometry there, just to make that look natural. Then you can hit 7 to go to the top view. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to hit G, selecting a vertex, and we're just creating a little bit of random variation. We don't want this to look perfectly round. And now that we've done the top part, let's just select a bottom vertex here. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go G and just move it up, rolling the middle mouse wheel as much as we need to, just to create a flat surface to the apple here. And that is about it, but we do need to actually model the little stem here. So let's disable proportional editing. Shift Alt, click on the edge on one of these edges here in the inside to loop select these verts. Shift D to duplicate, and then S to scale it really small. Do something like that, and then go to your front view, hit Z and go wireframe. And with these verts selected, we're going to bring them down to the base here of this cavity here. And we're going to go E to extrude them up, and we're going to not extrude them up straight, but just a little bit to the side. But we don't want to go too much because that's going to intersect with the cutter. So usually it would look more aesthetically pleasing, but in this case, we're just going to bring it over slightly. And then we're going to hit S just to scale it a little bit. And we're going to rotate it like this. And then we're going to hit E to extrude, S to scale, and we're going to bring it into there, and then we're going to hit F to fill it. Then we're going to come over here, hovering over one of these edges. We're going to hit Control R, double click to add in an edge, double G and slide that up to here, and then S to scale that. And let's go in here again, hovering over this edge, Control R, double click, double G, slide it up, and then S to scale that a bit. So just creating kind of like an organic shape here. And spend as much time as you want. So I'm just going hovering over edges here, Control R, double click, and then moving. So you can see what I'm doing here. You can add in as many as you need to, but I'm just doing something like that, not going overboard or anything like that. So that should be fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tab out of edit mode, and we're going to go to object mode and enable shade smooth. And you can see here, now that I've done it, I'm getting this funny shading happening here. If that happens to you, just tab into edit mode, hit A to select everything. If you hit Alt N, you can go to recalculate outside, and it'll fix those normal issues for you. Then you can just tab back into object mode, And let's go to our modifiers. Let's give this a subdivision surface modifier. Okay, so now we can get into, if you're happy with the way the apple looks, just in your front view, go G, Z, and just move it up till it's sitting on this red axis line here, or when you move around, you can see it looks like it's sitting on your floor. Now, once you're happy with the look of the apple, I think the thing you mainly want to focus on is making sure there's not too much symmetry. You want to make the shape look as organic as possible. But once you're happy with the shape, we're going to go over to our Materials tab. We're going to click on New, and let's just call this let's just call this material apple underscore skin. I guess we know it's the skin material. I'm going to come here to the base color, click on this yellow dot here, and we're going to make this an image texture. So make an image texture, click on Open, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and that's where I saved that image that's in the description below. So I'm going to click on it and go Open Image. And now it's that's applied to this material, but we need to actually go to our UV editing workspace. And we should be in edit mode on this side here. If it's not, just hit tab to go into edit mode. Then come to the drop down here in the drop down window and click on that apple image and just zoom out, and you should see the apple here. Now what we want to do on this side is roughly place ourselves so the view here looks similar to this one here. Okay, and I can already see that this apple here is a little bit taller, so I'm just going to hit A over here to select everything, and I'm going to go S, Z, and just scale it up a little bit. Going to my front view, I'm just going to move it up till it's sitting on the floor again. So I'm going to roughly try and get it lined up to this image here, and I'm going to hit U with everything selected. I'm going to hit U, and I'm going to go project from view. So now we can see it's projected over here. And over here, I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go S to scale it over in this workspace, G to move it, and then R to rotate it a little bit. And all I'm trying to do here is kind of just match it up on there. Okay, so something like this. And then I'm going to come over here, make sure proportional editing is enabled. Then you can actually select vertices here and hit G to move them and roll your middle mouse button to control the fall off. But we're trying to just line that up as much as possible to this guy over here, and you can even scale it. So just something like that. And don't worry too much about that stem. So I'm going to show you what we can do about that. Okay. So with the stem over here on this side, just select the vertex on the stem, hit Control L. That's just going to lose all of that as its own loose geometry. And over here, you can just select all of that, R to rotate it, S to scale it, and just place it on the stem here, just till it fills up that space there. Okay. So nothing too complicated there. Just moving it on here like that. So super simple. Now over here, if we hit Z and we go into material in the material preview and we tab out of edit mode, we can see our apple is now wrapped. Now this is not going to look good at other angles, but when we look from the perspective of where we project it, it should look relatively okay. So in this case, because your camera's only going to be looking at one direction, we can kind of get away with it a little bit. So now that the apple is done there, we can go over back to our layout. And now we're going to start organizing things. So with our apple here selected, we're going to go over here to our collection. You can see this is called sphere over here. This apple is called sphere. So we're going to double click on this and we're going to call it apple. All right. And we can see it's in this collection. So this is our first collection here. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select this apple and we're going to go Shift D to duplicate it. Right click to let go. And we can see we have apple 001. So we're going to double click on that and we're going to call this apple. And we're going to go underscore slices. Okay. And while we still have that apple underscore slices selected, we're going to hit M, new collection, and let's call that slices. And then hit OK. So now we have a new collection here, and inside of that is an apple slices. And we can now untick that and we can hide that collection. Okay. So if we hide both of them, we can see we don't see anything. So what we're going to do now is just enable both of those is okay. We're going to go Shift A. We're going to add in a cube. We're going to hit 7 to go to top orthographic view. And then we're going to tap into edit mode of that cube. Disable proportional editing. And with all of this selected, we're going to go S, Y, and we're going to flatten it on the Y. So S, Y, and just make that really skinny. That's going to be the blade. So just something like that. And then you're going to go S, X, and just scale it on the X just a little bit. Just like that. Then go into your front orthographic view. And then go G, Z, and just move it up till it's encompassing this apple. So we want to make sure this whole apple here is covered like that. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to go to our top orthographic view. And we're going to go Shift D to duplicate, right click to let go, and then we're going to go R45, and remember we're in our top orthographic view, okay? And then we're going to go Shift D R45 again and hit enter. And instead of doing that the whole time, you can just hit Shift R to repeat that action and it'll do that. So just duplicate it like once and then twice and then 3 times, and just to create this array around like that. Then we're going to tab out of edit mode, and we're going to go and select the apple slices, the one called apple slices under the slices collection. In fact, just untick the main collection here with the apple in it. So with the slices selected, the apple slices, we're going to go over to our modifiers, and we're going to come to the drop down and apply the subdivision surface modifier. And then we're going to come and give it a boolean, click on the eyedropper, and then select this object here, okay? And you can see it's kind of disappeared, so just make sure you have that apple slices selected over here. And you can come here, and the solver, we're going to make that fast. You can see here that should be working. One way to test it is just to select the cutter item here and hit H to hide it. Go to your top view, and it doesn't look like it's actually working in this case. Just quickly go over to exact, go to exact, and you just click on the self. So when I practiced this tutorial earlier, this did work when I used fast instead of exact, so I'm not sure why that's happening. So go to your top orthographic view, and you should see that that is all clean like that. So just make sure to use the exact here and enable the self. Then we're going to come to the drop down and just apply that. So now this is our apple slices over here, right? So that's working fantastic. So now we can click on the collection here, and you can see that brings in our other apple. So bring back the original collection, click on the original apple here, tab into edit mode, then hit A to select everything. And then you can go Alt S, and you're just going to scale it a little bit bigger so it kind of covers everything. And you're going to tab out of edit mode. And then we're going to go over here to the main collection and untick it just so we see our slices again. So now what we're going to do is actually, let's just quickly enable that main collection again. I forgot something. So just with that main collection enabled, click on the apple and just tab into edit mode. Just select the stem here, hit Control L. So just select the vertex on it, hit Control L. That's just going to select all of the loose geometry. Go Shift D to duplicate it, and then hit P, separate the selection, tab out of edit mode. And now you're going to see over here, we've got Apple 001. So that's actually the stem up here. With that selected, let's just double click on it and call it stem. And let's grab this stem over here and just drag it and move it into the slices layer here. Okay, the slices. So now we can unhide this collection here, and all we have here is the apple slices and the apple stem. So let's just actually select the apple slices here. Let's just tab into edit mode, and let's go over to our materials here. We can see all of them have that apple material. So let's just quickly go to the material preview. Let's go to the color here, and let's just give it a color so we can see where it's applied. Okay, so what we need to do now is click on the plus here and go new, and let's call this material apple inner. Okay, so apple inner. And what we need to do is go to our face select mode, click on it, and then we need to just select these faces and inside. So you can hold in shift and just click on these faces. So I'm holding in shift and I'm just clicking in these inside faces, going all the way around, just selecting them so they're active. Okay, super easy to do. Just select these inside faces. I'm holding in shift, got my face select enabled, and I'm just clicking on these inside faces like this. Okay, so going all the way around, just selecting these faces. Once you have them all selected, click on this apple inner and then hit assign. Now they all have that inner material, and we're just going to tab out of edit mode, and we should see that's working. Okay, so now we're also going to come here and just give all of them this object here, the slices, just give that an edge split, and now it cleans it up a little bit. Okay, so now when you're happy with it, you can tab into edit mode, hit A to select everything, then you hit P and you go separate by loose parts, tab out of edit mode, and now each one of these slices is its own object. But what we need to do is just make sure all of them are selected, so hold in shift and select all of these slices like this, hit F3 and then type in here set origin, and then go to set origin to geometry. Now each one of them has their origin point in the middle, which is what we want. Now what we're going to do with this stem, we don't want to move it. We're going to take the stem and holding in shift, we're going to select an apple slice here, any one of these, and we're going to go Control J, and we're going to join this apple slice to that. Super simple. Okay, just like that. So now this is its kind of own object. So we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices in here, and you can see they're all over here in the slices layer. So if we untick this slices layer, all of them should disappear. Okay. So what we have here is our original apple and our slices. So now what we can do is just enable both of these, the collection and the slices. Let's go over and just select that cube object that we hit earlier and just unhide it. So it's just this one over here, right? And we no longer need it as a cutter. So let's just come over here, double click on this cube, and let's just call it cutter, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my front orthographic view, and I'm going to go S, Z, and I'm going to flatten it on the Z like this, till it looks just like this, and I'm going to go G, Z, and I'm going to bring it up to the top here. And that's going to be our slicer. And let's actually go to our materials tab here, go new, and let's just call this slicer, just like that, and let's just give it a color in the viewport so we can see it's been applied. So this is going to be the slicer. It's going to come down and kind of chop this, if that makes sense. Okay. So now, with this slicer here, let's go into our front orthographic view. I'm going to go Shift A. I'm going to go add in an empty. I'm going to make it a cube. I'm going to go G, Z, move it up to where that slicer is. I'm going to go S to scale it down. And what I'm going to do is just move both of these up just a little bit higher. Then I'm going to take the slicer object here. I'm going to hold in Shift and select the empty. I'm going to go Control P, and I'm going to go Object, Keep Transform. So now if we grab the empty, that's parented. This slicer is parented to the empty. And now we can animate this empty going down. But what we also need to do is we need to go Shift A, and we need to add in a cube. And we need to just hit S to scale that cube up so it's bigger than the apple. So if you hit Z, go to wireframe, and you select this cube should fit over this apple. So just go G, Z, move this guy up till it's sitting right there. So we want the bottom of the edge to be just at the bottom of the cutter there, like that. Go to your object data here, go to the visibility, turn off render, because we don't want to see this cutter in the render. Then go to the viewport display, and just make the display as wire. So now if we hit Z and we go into solid view, that's just going to be a wire object. It's not going to look solid. And with this cutter selected, we're going to hold in Shift and select the empty, Control P, and we're going to go Object, Keep Transform. So now if we grab the empty here and we hit G, everything moves along. So now we're going to select the main apple here. So select the original apple, go to your modifiers, and come over here to the drop down, just minimize it, and then add modifier, give it a boolean, click on the eyedropper, and then select that big object, the big cutter here. Just click on that. So now if we grab this empty and we go G, Z, we move it down, you're going to see it's kind of the boolean is removing that original apple and only leaving the slices, which kind of gives it the illusion that it's kind of cutting in like that. See that? How cool is that? That's really, really cool. And if we hit Z and we go Material Preview, and we select that empty and we go G, Z, you can see exactly what's happening here. It's slicing that for us and creating this really, really cool effect. So let's quickly animate that empty. So let's come over here to our timeline. I'm going to go to frame 1. And in frame 1, with this guy here selected, the empty, I'm going to hit I. I'm going to insert a location keyframe. Then I'm going to come over to frame 30. And in frame 30, I'm going to go to my front view. I'm going to go G, Z, bring it all the way down till that blade here is touching the bottom, like that. Then I'm going to hit I, and I'm going to insert a location keyframe. And let's have a look at that. So if we go to frame 1 and we hit the space bar, we can see that happens. And then we're going to come over to frame 30, click on here, and just drag and just select the keyframe on frame 30 while that empty is still active. So just the keyframe on frame 30, hit Shift D, just drag it over to the side to frame 35. So you can see we've dragged it to frame 35. And then we're going to click here and drag and select the first keyframe, Shift D to duplicate it, and drag it over to frame 45. So what we're going to have is this. Okay, if we go to our first frame, we hit the spacebar, we're going to have this. The slicer comes down, and then it quickly comes up. But the downside is now this domain goes back up with it. So what we can do is go to frame 1, and obviously you're going to have to decide if you want the animation to be Bezier or linear. So in this case, I'm just actually going to select the empty here. Okay, that empty. Select all of these keyframes. I'm going to hit T, and I'm going to make it linear. So it's not going to ease in and ease out. It's going to be one linear animation up and down like that. Okay, the only reason we got the double keyframe here is just to create a little bit of a pause before it goes up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select this box here, the domain, and we're going to come to frame 1. We're going to go Alt-P, and we're going to go clear parent, keep transform. So now it's no longer parented at empty. And on frame 1, come here to frame 1, we're going to hit I with this guy selected, insert a location keyframe, then we're going to drag through to frame 30, and on frame 30 we're going to go G, Z, bring it down till it's covering that apple. I, insert a location keyframe, and just leave it there. So now what's going to happen is this. Okay, we also just, while we have this cube that we just animated active, just select its keyframes, hit T, and also make that linear so it catches up and is in sync with our previous animation. So just look at that. So you can see what's happening, right? Now that part goes up, but the domain stays down there, and it's still, so which gives it that illusion. So let's just quickly have a look at that in material preview, go to frame 1, hit the spacebar, and look at that. So it's just after this guy goes back up that we're going to run our physics simulation. In fact, let's quickly set that up now. So we do need to create an interactive surface for our slices. So let's go Shift A. Let's just quickly add in a plane. S to scale that plane up. And now what we can do is with this plane selected, let's go over to our physics tab here. Let's give it a rigid body. And let's just come over here to the rigid body settings. Okay. And let's just make it passive because it's not going to be moving. And let's come here to the shape and make it mesh. Come to the sensitivity, and we're going to make the margin 0.001 to make it smaller. And that should be fine. So while we have this active, let's just hit M, and let's just go New Collection. And let's just call this Scene, and then hit OK. And what we're going to do is we now have a collection called Scene, and it's inside of there where this plane is. So if we unhide it, you can see we hide the plane. We also want to select our slicer here, this blade. So we just clicked on it, and it's now active. So where is that in our scene here? So just with that active, hit M and just move it to Scene. So we can see that cutter is now in our scene. And also just this empty and the cutter object. So both of these as well. Just hit M and move them on that to that scene location. So now we can untick those guys and remove them. Okay, so all we should have here are these three collections. So the main collection, which is our original apple, our slices, and then the scene items and the cutter here as well. So bring all of these back, and what we're going to do is just select the slices. In fact, let's just quickly hide everything but the slices. Okay, so all we have here are these slices. So let's just click on any one of these slices, go to rigid body, so under the physics, give it a rigid body, leave the type as active, make the collision here under the shape mesh, come to the sensitivity down here and make it 0.001 and hit enter. Now to give it to all of them, with this one active, hit A to select the rest, but this one is still the main active one. So then we're going to hit F3, and we're going to come up here and we're going to type copy, and then come down to copy from active. Now each one of these slices has those exact same properties. So now let's go over to our scene here and enable it. But if we were to actually go to frame 1 now, and we hit the spacebar, all of this is going to play before the slicer even comes. So what we need to do is go over here to our rigid body settings, right? Our object or our scene properties. And we're going to come down to the rigid body here. And we need to think about where the slicer is coming up. So in this case, it's at frame 45 where the slicer is completely up. In fact, let's go to about frame 38. So let's go over here down under the rigid body and go to the cache. And we want this simulation to start at frame 38. So let's type in 38. And you can let it run all the way to 250, but in this case, I'm just going to make the end frames 150. And then come here to the end frame value under the cache and make it 150. All this is essentially saying is that our animation is 150 frames long. The simulation is starting at frame 38, and it's ending at frame 150. Super simple. So now if we go to frame 1 and we hit the space bar, we're going to see this. Now obviously just quickly enable your first collection so we get our main apple back. Then go to frame 1 and that's going to make a lot more sense. And now if you hit the space bar, you're going to see that. And look at that. Isn't that just wonderful? And if you hit Z and you go into material preview, you're going to see that. So now we can actually, in the next part, start refining the materials here. Also, let's just quickly select, go into our front view, Shift A, let's just quickly add in a camera. Go to your camera settings, make the focal length 95. Then go over here to your output settings and make the resolution on the X 1080. And then go to your top orthographic view and hit G with the camera, just move it over here, and then R to rotate it in. Then hit 0 to go into camera view, G, Z, move it up, and then G, middle mouse button with the camera active and just pull it back. So this is completely up to you. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just get a camera pose that you like. And also one more thing you can do is you can go Shift A, just add in a circle, tab into edit mode, go to your vertex select option, S to scale these guys up, right? And then tab out of edit mode, G, Z, just move that guy up in object mode to about here where the cutter is, tab back into edit mode, S to scale it, and just kind of scale it till it's in the border here. And then E to extrude, S to scale, like that. Select all of them, and then E to extrude up. And then you can just bring them down like this. So you're just kind of creating this plastic thing on the outside here. Control R over one of these edges, double click, double G to slide it up a bit. Go to your face select, and then Shift Alt, click on an edge to loop select these faces. E to extrude, and then Alt S to scale it out along the normals. Then we're going to go to our edge select, Shift Alt, click on this edge to loop select them, and then click on this edge. I'm holding in Shift Alt while I'm doing this. So just all of these edges here. And then you're going to go Control B, and you're just going to bevel them and roll your middle mouse button to smooth them out. Tab out of edit mode, go to object mode and enable shade smooth, and also give that a subdivision surface modifier. And then come to frame 1. And in frame 1, while you have this guy selected, hold in Shift and select that empty, Control P, object keep transform. So now this guy is going to follow along as well when we play our animation, just like that. So you can also just grab this guy here, the handle, go to materials, click new, and let's just call it handle. And let's go to the viewport display and just give it a color so we can see it's applied. Okay, so now we have all of the modeling done. Okay, so let's just quickly cache this out as well. So just go File, first of all, just save it. And then you can go over to your cache here. And you can go your rigid body settings. You go down here to the cache and you're going to hit bake. And it's going to bake all of this out for you. And that means we're not going to have to run it from scratch every time. This animation or this simulation is going to be baked into this blend file. So there we have it, just like that. So now in the next part, we'll add the lighting and we'll work on the material. So just make sure to save it. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing next. We're going to make it look really cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in the link below as well, and you're going to download this image here. It's also free and it's on Pixabay. So just come here, download it. I would just put mine on my desktop as well, like I did with the previous image. And what we're just going to quickly do for an extra slice of realism with these apples here, if you just select an apple slice here, any one of them, just go into your UV editing here and go over here to the materials tab. And then we got this apple in there that we've already applied to the insides before. We're going to come over here to the base color, click on it, give it an image texture, open. I'm going to go to my desktop and select that red apples material, go open, and it's going to be all over the place. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select, go to the face select here. In fact, you can tab out and just hide everything else. So go over here to your collection, hide the first collection, go down and hide the scene collection. So all we have here are the slices. Just select the slices and then tab into edit mode at the same time. So just hit tab and you can go into edit mode in all of them at the same time because it's Blender 2.92. So select a slice here, holding in Shift select another slice, and just work your way around like this. Just selecting all of the slices like this. So just selecting the faces. So I'm just holding in Shift while I do this, going around just selecting all of those like that, okay? So they're all active. You can hit Z, go into wireframe to see it better, okay? And then you're gonna hit U and you're just gonna go unwrap. And now they're all unwrapped like this. So that doesn't seem to be working like I thought it would. So what we might have to do is just select one at a time, go U and unwrap, and then come over here to the drop down. Just go to that red apple material or texture or image. Come over here and just select them, and then S to scale them down, R to rotate, and then just place it on this apple here. And if you come over here and you hit Z, you go material preview, you can kind of see what it's looking like. So you can come over here, enable proportional editing, and then just select vertices and move them around. Just make it work, okay? So just something like that. And you can see what that looks like now. So go ahead and do the same. Select the next one, U, unwrap, select it all, G to move it, S to scale, and then R to rotate. Just place them wherever. So I'm just going to quickly do this in time lapse because I've already explained the process here. It's super simple. I'm just going to be repeating this exact same thing over and over that I just did. So just go around like that, doing that. So I'm going to do that quickly in time lapse. So I've now finished doing that. So I just did that same thing over and over again. And I did it really quick and dirty, but like anytime you want, you can just come in here and just select a vertex, move it around. So this is something that you can edit anytime you want to, but just because I'm doing a tutorial, I just did it quick and dirty like this, but you get the point. So just unwrapping it like this so we see all of the slices. So now I'm just going to bring back the scene over here. I'm also going to bring back the main collection with the main apple in it. So let's go over to our shading workspace now. Obviously just go Control S just to save everything, and then go into your camera view, hit Z, and then go into rendered. And let's go add in our first light. So we're going to go Shift A, go to our empty option, our light options, add in an area light, and then G, move it up, R to rotate it, go to your light settings, increase the power, and obviously increase the size. So go ahead, I'm not going to give it a specific number, just toy around with it till you like the strength. Then you're going to go to your render settings, enable ambient occlusion, and also screen space reflections. Those two are all you need to do. Then go back to your light and just tamper around with the power here and the size. Once you're happy with it, you can go Shift D to duplicate it, R to rotate it, and just set up a basic lighting system. So I'm not going to do too much information on this. It's just, you've seen it all before. And Shift D, just duplicate it. Just try and get something that looks good to you. So I'm going to go with something like that, looks fine. Obviously spend as much time as you want. I'm going to select this floor here, tab into edit mode. I'm going to go to my edge select, and you can see the cameras over here. So I'm going to select the back edge, disable proportional editing. I'm going to go E, Z to extrude it up on a Z, and then G, Y to move it back on a Y. Then I'm going to select this edge here, and I'm going to hit Control B or Command B and bevel that. Roll the middle mouse button to add in more segments, just like that, and then tab out of edit mode. Go to object mode and enable shade smooth. Hit 0 to go into camera view, and while you have this plane selected, go R, Z, and just rotate it on the Z till it fills in the backspace here like that. And you can also select your lights, any one of these lights, and increase the power anytime you need to. And you can keep duplicating, so Shift D to duplicate. So just work on that, get a nice studio looking scene going here. So like a nice backdrop, some nice lights, work on it as much as you want. And then once you've done that, you can work on the material. So let's just select one of these apple slices. Go to your materials tab, select apple skin. So I misspelt it, so I'm just going to quickly make that skin, not slim. And I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to come to the roughness. I'm going to drag that down to make the skin more glossy. Obviously add in like a bump map if you want or something, but I'm just going to leave it basic. Then I'm going to go to Apple Inner, I'm going to bring the roughness down to make it a bit more glossy, reflective, and I'm just going to come to the subsurf here and make it 0.1 like this to give it a bit of subsurface scatter. Then come to the subsurface color and just make it slightly yellowish, kind of pink, almost cream kind of thing going on here, just to give it a bit of translucency like that. And there we have that. Let's just select the handle that we created here. Let's make it green, make it the roughness down a little bit to make it look plasticky, and just give it 0.05 on the subsurf scatter, just to kind of make it look translucent, make it look a little bit like plastic. Then select the metal part in here, the blades. We already gave it a slicer material earlier. Just come to the metallic and just drag that up. And now it looks metallic. Bring the roughness down a bit to make it look a bit more reflective. And that's pretty much our blade in there. So that's pretty much it. So let's go over to our layout, go to our first frame, go into camo view, hit Z, and then go rendered this time. Then hit the space bar and see what it looks like. And there we have it. Nice apple slices, super satisfying. And you can see the physics is a little bit weird here, but that's where you can kind of go in there and edit the physics settings a little bit. Try just moving the apple slices a little bit higher. It can solve that issue. But I'm not going to focus too much on rigid bodies. There's a lot of videos on it. This is kind of more just showing you how to generally do this sort of animation. So there you have it. I might actually just come here to the end value and just make it something like 130 instead, so we don't have it all the way. So just something like that's fine. Maybe even 100. So we won't see that little end bit. So just something like this. Goes up and then the apple slice is full. And that's super satisfying. So I'm going to quickly show you how to render this out. So we're going to go over to our output settings. Go to the output, select the folder, and select something like your desktop. Go accept. Go to the file format. You can make it sequences and then composite it in another program, but I'm just going to go with FFmpeg video. Go to the encoding, go to the container and make it MP4. Once again, just make sure to save it all, and then you can go render and then render animation. It'll render all of this out for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know I went quite fast, but I kind of have to, otherwise I'm going to be sitting here for 2 hours. So this was a little bit more of an advanced one. Once again, all of the files are on Patreon, including my original one here, if you guys are interested in, where it's kind of just cores it. And I did mess it up a little bit here in the middle. I shouldn't have this bit in here, but it's kind of like the same thing going on here, just a little bit more advanced. I just polished it a little bit more. But yeah, that's pretty much how I make these guys here. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you guys next time.